The Gala floor at Lone Star Innovation Pavilion glowed beneath giant screens as investors, reporters, and employees crossed the room with silver VIP badges clipped to expensive jackets. Above the stage, a digital clock counted down to the Wedding Party Lab's signing ceremony at 8:45 that night. Near the service entrance, Leah Carter stood in a faded gray hoodie, maternity jeans, and worn sneakers, holding a brown paper envelope against her 7-month belly. She did not look invited. Leah had arrived at 6:18 in the evening and pressed her badge to the scanner twice, but the light flashed red. She did not argue about status. She only asked the attendant to record her arrival time and deliver the envelope to the event legal team. Then Vanessa Cole appeared. Vanessa heard that the court papers had already been delivered electronically, called them unverified, and locked the envelope inside a secure intake case. Anyone without active credentials had to leave, she said, unless a temporary work record allowed that person to remain. Her voice made the decision sound ordinary. It was not. A cooling line beneath the demonstration booth began leaking across the walkway. Vanessa refused to stop the rehearsal, pointed to a reflective vest and a janitorial cart, and said Leah had been entered under a temporary facilities code while her file was reviewed. If Leah wanted to stay inside, she could keep the passage safe. The insult wore a badge. Leah looked at the locked case, then at the countdown. Leaving could mean the court order never reached the signing table before 8:45. She pulled the vest over her hoodie, took the mop, and pushed water away from the cables while a security officer watched. At 7:42, the front doors opened. Applause rolled through the pavilion as Ethan Carter entered beneath the camera lights. He turned toward the stage, then saw Leah kneeling beside the water, her swollen ankle turned outward and her pregnancy pressing against the bright vest. His smile vanished. Ethan stopped. The music continued, but he heard only the wet tap of the mop hand against the floor. One drop fell from the bucket and struck the concrete. Leah looked up, and their eyes held for 2 full seconds. He could not move. Then Ethan crossed the floor, past the investors, and pulled the mop from Leah's reddened hand. His eyes dropped to her old shoes, swollen ankles, and the pressure marks around her wrist. He asked who had done this to her. Leah did not answer. She stood carefully and said, "Ask Vanessa why my badge died at 5:46 this morning." Ethan realized he had not seen her in person for 8 months. Everything he believed about her leaving had come through Vanessa, outside counsel, and reports read between meetings. Vanessa reached them with her tablet against her chest. She said Leah had arrived without an appointment, refused to leave a controlled area, and had been allowed to wait under a temporary facilities record. She called it a reasonable accommodation, not humiliation. Leah asked for her envelope and written confirmation of the chain of custody, but Vanessa said legal staff could not open secure intake until after the keynote. Ethan looked at the clock. He said the gala should stop until the documents were reviewed. Vanessa reminded him that hundreds of jobs and a $1.8 billion transaction depended on the schedule. Leah did not ask Ethan to protect her. She only nodded toward the falling minutes above the stage. One question remained. If Vanessa had only followed procedure, why had Leah's badge been revoked before the court order was delivered? Ethan ordered the access logs pulled immediately. Vanessa held his gaze and said she was the only person authorized to approve that request tonight. 10 years earlier, Leah had written the first vendor scheduling engine on a second-hand laptop in their 1-bedroom Austin apartment. Ethan called florists and caterers from a folding table, sold the idea to their first customer, and signed the founder agreement beside her. Any sale required approval from both founder trusts. They built it together. When their marriage ended, Ethan avoided direct conflict and let Vanessa manage the separation of access during valuation. He accepted summaries, saying Leah wanted money and no operating role, while Vanessa told Leah the board was reviewing her rights and had frozen every distribution. The gap became a wall. Leah kept her ownership, but lost the income attached to it. She moved into a small apartment, paid for private pregnancy insurance, and trusted documents to correct the record instead of attacking Ethan online. She waited on paper. Back at the gala, Ethan asked why she had never called him. Leah said she had used the certified letters, board notices, and outside counsel channels he required. Her silence had not been absence. He had outsourced the door. Vanessa said their former marriage was outside event operations and warned that delaying the keynote would alarm lenders, employees, and North Peak. Before Ethan answered, Daniel Brooks felt his phone vibrate.
The court had answered first. Daniel turned the notice toward Ethan. The Travis County emergency order had reached the event legal address at 6:07, 11 minutes before Leah arrived. Vanessa insisted that delivery was not verification. Daniel's face changed. Daniel requested the envelope and intake record. Vanessa blamed Leah's inactive credentials, but Daniel noted that electronic service from the court had nothing to do with the badge scanner. The first contradiction was now visible. Ethan placed the signing on hold. Vanessa called that reckless for a company worth more than $2 billion, then messaged her assistant to relabel Leah's record as a personal complaint following divorce. The system kept the time. She also told security to describe Leah as disruptive. Leah gave Daniel the case number and asked that all records after 5 that morning be preserved. But Vanessa said someone without a current position had no authority to request it. Daniel looked up. No current position under what document, he asked. Vanessa avoided the question and warned Ethan that delay weakened his negotiating position. Yet someone confident in her records would have opened them. So what was she protecting by keeping every file closed? The room felt smaller. Noah Reed arrived from the demonstration booth and said the cooling system had issued a pressure warning and requested a shutdown before the leak. Vanessa handed him a prepared note, calling it a minor spill. Noah read one line. Noah looked at Leah's vest and reddened fingers, then refused to sign a report that omitted the override command. Vanessa ordered him back to his station. He stayed where he was. Vanessa ordered Leah moved to the public lobby. Daniel blocked the move, said counsel would review the active court order first, and suspended North Peak signing until he saw the original founder agreement. The countdown continued alone. Maria Alvarez arrived with the certified order open on the court portal. She offered no praise or personal history, only the filing number, the judge's signature, and the 607 service receipt. Facts did the introduction. The original agreement showed that Carter Product Trust held 35% of the voting rights and veto power over a transfer of the full intellectual property portfolio. Leah Carter was its sole authorized representative. Leah said nothing. A consent document bearing Leah's name sat in the deal room, but its certificate did not match her registered signing key. The file came from an operations account controlled by Vanessa's office. Ethan lowered his eyes. Ethan looked down because the company had never earned the right to silence Leah. He had mistaken administrative distance for consent, and what had been withheld was more than money. It was her voice. The access history showed Vanessa revoking Leah's founder badge at 5:46. At 6:24, her operations group created a temporary facilities record under Leah's name without a contract or consent. The second trail matched the first. Noah's sensor history showed Vanessa's administrator account bypassing the cooling lock at 6:31. The water Leah was ordered to mop came directly from that decision. 3 sources now agreed. The court receipt proved the order arrived. The access log proved the badge and false work record were altered. The sensor data proved the safety system was overridden. None depended on Leah's word. Vanessa could still have stopped and surrendered control to independent counsel. But what would a person do when her authority depended on never admitting error and the numbers were about to fill the main screen? She walked toward the stage controls. Vanessa ordered the keynote to continue and told the production team that all legal questions would be handled after the presentation. At 8:15, Ethan stepped beneath the white stage lights while his prepared speech waited on the teleprompter. He did not read a single line. The room went still. Ethan said the deal could not continue while a founder's rights were disputed and a safety incident appeared concealed. Daniel then suspended the $1.8 billion transaction because the holder of 35% of the voting rights had not validly consented. Then he read her name. Daniel confirmed that Leah Carter remained a co-founder with full legal authority under the original agreement. Leah did not walk toward the stage or remove the reflective vest. She remained beside the service aisle as investors, employees, and reporters slowly turned to face her. The record revealed her. Across the pavilion, employees who had passed Leah in the service hall stopped looking at the stage and began looking at the vest. One investor lowered his printed agenda, while a reporter capped her pen and waited for the documents instead of chasing a reaction. Leah placed one hand beneath her belly and kept the other at her side. She did not perform. The main screen changed from a product animation to a clean timeline authorized by Transaction Counsel. 546 showed the founder badge revoked. 624 showed the temporary facilities record created. Then came 631. Noah confirmed the untouched sensor archive, and Maria confirmed the court order was active before Vanessa seized the paper copy. The room held only the hum of the screens and a camera being lowered. Vanessa kept smiling for one extra beat. The right corner of her mouth tightened first. Her throat moved as she swallowed. Her eyes jumped toward the control desk, and her fingers closed around the tablet until the skin across her knuckles turned pale. She did not look at Leah. She looked at the times. Vanessa ordered the display shut down, but the technician refused under Daniel's preservation instruction. She raised her voice and declared herself the highest operating authority in the pavilion. The stage microphone caught every word. She argued that Leah lacked a badge, the spill was handled, and one private dispute could not stop the company. Ethan said Vanessa had reshaped procedure until one person could no longer be heard. The screen stayed on. A call from the board chair appeared on the legal monitor, and independent directors voted to suspend Vanessa's operating authority pending review. The system updated before anyone spoke again. Vanessa pressed her badge to the control reader, and the light changed from green to red. This time, she froze. She immediately ordered security to remove Leah, but the guard's device no longer accepted commands from her account. She turned toward the board camera and called the suspension a reckless governance mistake made under public pressure. Daniel announced that North Peak was leaving the signing session until an independent audit could determine the full scope of the irregularities. The deal table emptied. Ethan told the room that he had approved broad delegations without checking how they were used. He accepted responsibility for choosing summaries over direct review and asked the press not to film Leah's personal documents. The suspension of the transaction, he said, was public, but her medical and financial information was not. Vanessa kept fighting. She called the mismatched signature certificate a technical defect and described the false facilities record as a temporary solution that allowed Leah to remain inside the building. She even said Leah's work with the mop had prevented a possible fall, turning the humiliation
into proof of efficient event management. Her voice stayed level, but a thin pulse moved beneath her left eye. Then, Maria requested the email archive. A message Vanessa had sent minutes earlier appeared in the preservation queue. It instructed her assistant to backdate the badge note and describe Leah as an intruder who had resisted removal. The attempt to repair the record after the fact changed suspicion into evidence of deliberate concealment. The last door closed. The board terminated Vanessa's contract for cause and transferred the forgery, access manipulation, and possible obstruction issues to outside counsel. No police rushed the stage, and no one placed handcuffs around her wrists. Her fall came through a disabled account, an empty executive chair, and a room that no longer accepted her version of events. She still did not apologize. At the exit, Vanessa turned once and said, "I would make the same decision again. A billion-dollar company cannot stop for personal feelings." Then she walked through the service doors, without access to the elevator she had used that morning. Her badge stayed red. Ethan stepped down and held Leah's restored founder badge in his open palm. She looked at it, but did not reach for it, because Vanessa's dismissal answered only the easiest question. The harder one remained. Would Ethan repair the damage with a speech, or return what had actually been taken? Inside a small conference room, after the guests left, Ethan apologized for trusting convenient reports instead of speaking to Leah directly. She listened without softening the truth for him, and said an apology mattered only if the structure prevented the same thing from happening to someone without her documents. Maria and Daniel opened an emergency record while the building crew removed untouched champagne from the signing table. The work became specific. The emergency minutes recorded who had authority, who had approved each change, and which decisions required outside review. Leah refused any private settlement that would leave the access system untouched, and Ethan agreed that his own name could not remain the final answer to every dispute. The correction had to survive both of them. That was the test. Carter Product Trust's 35% voting authority was formally recognized. Wrongfully withheld distributions were placed into escrow for audit rather than handed to Leah as a dramatic check. She then set 4 conditions before she would join any future negotiation. No shortcuts. Any removal of founder or whistleblower access required 2 approvals. An independent appeal had to be available within 24 hours. No employee or guest could be forced into work outside an assigned role in exchange for remaining present or being heard. Safety data could not be overridden for a commercial schedule. Ethan agreed to give up sole chief executive authority during the audit and accept an independent co-chief executive selected by the board. He did not ask Leah to return to their marriage, and he did not offer money as a substitute for accountability. He asked whether he could attend the rest of the pregnancy appointments as the child's father, while respecting every boundary she set. Leah gave him one beginning. She said he could arrive on time for the doctor's appointment Monday morning, without an assistant and without cameras. Real change would not appear beneath stage lights. It would show itself on an ordinary day, when no audience remained. Ethan nodded once. Leah finally took the restored badge, slipped it into her hoodie pocket, and left the pavilion under her own power. She did not place it around her neck. She did not look back at the stage. The doors closed softly. 3 months later, the audit ended, and the original sale was canceled. Wedding Party Labs did not collapse. Employees kept their jobs, and the board adopted the new access and safety rules. Leah's rights were restored, and she accepted a term as product chair, with the freedom to leave when that term ended. Her choice remained hers. She had delivered a healthy baby boy, and she and Ethan were learning to share responsibility without pretending trust had already been rebuilt. Ethan drove himself to appointments, arrived before the scheduled time, and stopped using expensive gifts to fill hours he should have given in person. They were parents together. Nothing more was promised. One quiet morning at the Austin office, an older service employee pressed his badge to the lobby scanner and received a red light. The supervisor did not order him outside or tell him to wait near a loading door. She called the new appeal line, verified his assignment within minutes, and restored his access. The scanner beeped green. At the same moment, a water pitcher tipped near the lobby chairs and spread a clear pool across the tile. Ethan picked up the warning sign while a manager brought the mop. Then the manager and the service employee cleaned the floor together. No one laughed, no one barked an order, and no one had to prove importance before receiving respect. The room kept moving. Leah stood at a safe distance with the baby in her arms and watched Ethan straighten a chair that blocked the walkway. He held the door for the employee whose badge had just been restored, then returned the warning sign to its cabinet. He did not search Leah's face for forgiveness. He simply did the work. Leah touched the pocket where her founder badge rested. She did not lift it, display it, or remind anyone what it meant. Morning sunlight moved across the drying floor as the scanner gave one soft beep. The light turned green. This time, the company continued without making anyone small. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. And if you believe every person deserves dignity, no matter how they look, like this video, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs the reminder. This is an original fictional story created for entertainment and moral reflection. Any resemblance to real people, companies, institutions, or events is purely coincidental.